Yeah, dairy I, I just think it should never be eaten by an adult, particularly dairy of another species. As weird as that might sound, why are people drinking dairy from a cow? When you understand what dairy is milk of a mammalian species. Milk is designed for two functions. It's designed to grow the particular infant of that species into a full-fledged adult. So if it's a cow, it's designed to grow a cow from small to enormous within a very small period of time. And it is also designed to act as an immune cover for the infant, who is necessarily, as a new representative of that given species, having to write its own immunological baseline. That is, in the transmission down generations, you cannot merely transmit to the next generation the immune functioning, the immune code, the immune protocol, whatever it might be. You cannot transmit that 100% down the line to the next generation, because that next generation is by definition new. It has a new biological reality. It has a new constitutional reality internally. It has a new ecological reality that it's stepping into, a new environment. All of that means that it needs to somehow develop its own immune intelligence, and it does that by the immune system essentially being in an off state. So when an infant comes out of a mammal, the immune system isn't really functioning, or it's not functioning very well or very highly. The milk from the mother comes in and provides immune cover, so that that infant can in the safety of that immune cover, can develop its own immunological response. And to provide that immune cover, there are a score of MicroRNA compounds in milk that vibrate at the DNA level, and this is well understood by agricultural science, because they deal with cows, right? So they deal with the marketing of cows, and they want to figure out a way to get a small animal as big as it can in relative healthiest version that they can get it, so that they can get it off to market, and they can continue that cycle through all its iterations. So they've been studying this stuff for a long time. They understand that milk vibrates at the DNA level to get immune cover. That is, it jacks up the immune system, as it were, and it triggers the growth of metabolism. So if you look at chronic disease, for instance, chronic disease is growth metabolism and immune functioning gone haywire. Any chronic disease has a growth element and has an immune element kind of functioning as primary components of that disease. So I personally think that consuming milk is a mistake, a big mistake. And interestingly enough, some of these papers from these scientists I read, a couple of scientists came right out in the paper, and these are peer-reviewed papers, said that wow, this humans drinking milk from the bovine species is a species experiment that's never been performed. And one of the scientists said, in his opinion, that consuming milk products was very probably the largest factor in generating chronic disease. I'm not sure I would go that far, but in my own experience, when I took milk entirely out of my diet, my internal level of inflammation, which was relatively high, came down just immediately, 75%. The other 25% I had to deal with in terms of other dysfunctions that I was having to address, but milk was the major contributor. That was clear in my case. And for what it's worth, drinking raw milk is worse than drinking pasteurized, because pasteurization destroys some of the microRNA compounds. And also, for what it's worth, if people want to know, these compounds are delivered in the milk in a bilipid layer, which means that they have two layers of fat surrounding the microRNA compound. And that bilipid layer allows the compounds to survive digestion, survive heat, a certain amount of heat, and it makes them robust so that it's hard to get rid of them. So even pasteurized milk has still these compounds in them. But raw milk has the full panel of them. And I experienced that myself. When I was, I used to eat a lot of yogurt and cheese and yogurt and cheese and the fatty yogurts, like the Greek yogurt. Loved it. I just loved it, right? And ate it all the time, and inflammation was going up and up and up. And, it's all this fatty milk stuff, right? It's just a very high concentration of these RNA compounds. It wasn't until I took all that out that the inflammation came down. Who knows what that did to my body, right? Who knows what it did to my immune system? Was there permanent change? Quite possible, I think. I still have a fairly hyper response immunologically to kind of any compounds entering my bloodstream, right? And I get that through reacting to foods, for instance. And I'm sure there's other factors, but it seems to me at least a possibility, a probability that milk is still kind of operating in my system, in the sense that I consumed all that milk. It vibrated me at the DNA level. It may have changed my immune functioning permanently, or at least for all practical purposes permanently, for whatever time I have left, right? Open question, and I would side on the answer of saying, yeah, that's probably true. It's I think it's good advice just to get rid of milk. It's a little perverse to think that you would be, as let's say a 30-year-old, sucking on your mother's breast. Oh, why are you sucking on the breast of some other mother, right? Call it a cow or a goat, or it doesn't matter. It's still the same. It's still milk coming from a breast that's intended for an infant.